They slapped her in front of 200 students thinking she would break. But instead, she awakened a power that would shake the entire school, expose every secret the bullies tried to bury, and rewrite her destiny forever. Want more jaw-dropping stories? Don't forget to subscribe for the next twist you never saw coming. Bullies slapped her in front of 200 students. Her response changed everything. Aaliyah Hart had learned to survive silence before she had ever learned to speak her own truth, and on the morning everything changed. The sky above Eastwood High was the same gray shade she had always associated with danger, as if even the weather sensed the storm forming around her, because she walked through the gates clutching her books to her chest and hoping, praying, that today would be one of the rare days she passed unnoticed. But fate had other plans, beginning when Brielle Stanton, the girl with diamond earrings, a politician father, and cruelty sharpened to an art, spotted Aaliyah crossing the courtyard just as the morning assembly was ending and 200 students were dispersing toward the hallways, and Brielle, fueled by jealousy she would never admit out loud, stepped in front of her with her entourage, creating a wall of designer shoes and lip gloss smiles, sneering, "Look at this pathetic thing," before, without warning, her hand whipped through the air, connecting with Aaliyah's cheek so loudly the courtyard went silent, and the gasp that rose from the crowd seemed to echo in slow motion. But Aaliyah didn't fall. Instead, she stood frozen, her face stinging, her vision blurring, her soul trembling, yet deep within her chest, something old and buried cracked open, something she didn't even know she had. Because she wasn't supposed to be here, the scholarship girl from nowhere, daughter of a father who never came home and a mother who worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, always invisible, always small. But Brielle's slap didn't just bruise her skin, it awakened the rage, the grief, and the quiet intelligence she'd locked away for years, and as Brielle smirked, expecting tears, expecting surrender, Aaliyah did the unthinkable. She lifted her head, stared her bully in the eyes, and smiled, a small, calm, terrifying smile that made Brielle's confidence flicker for the first time ever, because the girl she thought was weak suddenly looked like someone who knew a secret, and indeed, Aaliyah did, for last night she had opened an email that had changed everything, a full-ride acceptance letter to the most prestigious international science competition, her research project selected as a finalist among thousands, meaning she would soon present on a global stage, and she hadn't planned on telling anyone yet, but Brielle's slap had rewritten her path. So Aaliyah stepped forward, voice steady as stone, and said, "You just hit the wrong girl," and though she spoke softly, the words carried like thunder through the courtyard, because students who had never cared suddenly whipped out their phones, whispering, filming, anticipating a breakdown they would not receive, for instead of running away, Aaliyah walked straight to the principal's office, reported Brielle with absolute clarity, and slammed down the medical report from the nurse's office and a USB containing weeks of secretly recorded bullying incidents from dozens of other victims Brielle had tormented. Because Aaliyah had spent months collecting stories, gathering proof, building a case not just for herself but for every student who had been too afraid to speak, and Principal Harris, who had ignored countless complaints in the past due to Brielle's father's influence, went pale as he watched the video evidence stack higher and higher, until even he understood he could no longer cover it up, and when he tried to stall, Aaliyah revealed the final twist. She had copied every file to a protected cloud server and scheduled an automatic send to the school board, local journalists, and Brielle's father's political rivals unless the school took immediate action, and the principal, trembling, realized this quiet girl had outmaneuvered an entire system built to silence her. But Aaliyah wasn't done. She returned to the courtyard where the crowd still buzzed like angry bees, and when Brielle tried to regain control by laughing and calling her dramatic, Aaliyah simply raised her phone and played a recorded audio clip. Brielle mocking disabled students, threatening scholarship kids, bragging about cheating on tests, while the entire school stared in shock, including Brielle's own friends, who recoiled from her as if she were radioactive. Then, the vice principal arrived with 2 security officers, escorting Brielle from the courtyard while she kicked and screamed, the mighty queen finally dethroned in front of 200 witnesses, and though justice had begun, the story was far from over, because later that afternoon, Brielle's father stormed onto campus furiously demanding Aaliyah be expelled, but Aaliyah had already anticipated this move, and leaning calmly against the office doorway was Dr. Rowan Hale, the globally renowned scientist who chaired the international competition Aaliyah had been selected for, who had come to congratulate her in person and had overheard the entire confrontation, and when Brielle's father sneered that Aaliyah was nothing, Hale replied with a chilling smile, "This, nothing, is about to represent your city on a world stage. Perhaps you should worry about the daughter who disgraced it," leaving the man speechless. But the greatest twist unfolded weeks later, when Aaliyah, now celebrated by her school, stood on the grand stage of the International Youth Science Summit, presenting her invention, a low-cost, portable filtration device inspired by the polluted water in her own neighborhood. And as she spoke, flashbulbs erupted, journalists scribbled notes, and judges leaned forward with awe. But in the audience, secretly wiping tears, was a woman Aaliyah hadn't seen in years, her estranged grandmother on her father's side, a woman she had believed wanted nothing to do with her, but who now rose to her feet, trembling, and whispered, "Your father would be proud," sending Aaliyah into an emotional spiral. After winning first place by a landslide, Aaliyah returned home to find thousands of messages from students thanking her for standing up, for exposing Brielle, for proving that silence was not safety but surrender, and the girl who had once walked with her eyes down now strode through Eastwood High with her head held high, no longer alone, no longer afraid, because she had discovered that courage was contagious, and that one act of defiance could rewrite an entire community's story. But the final twist came on graduation day, when Principal Harris, who had once ignored her, asked if she would give the valedictorian speech, and Aaliyah, with a soft smile, said yes, standing before the auditorium packed with parents, teachers, and students, declaring, "They slapped me in front of 200 people to make me small. Instead, they made me unstoppable," and the roaring applause shook the building, and as she stepped off the stage, a letter slid into her hand from an anonymous donor offering to fund her entire college journey and future research, and though she didn't know it yet, that donor was Dr. Hale, and as she walked out into the sun, her mother beside her, the world ahead of her, she finally realized the truth. The slap that was meant to destroy her had awakened the unstoppable woman she was always meant to become, and her response had changed everything, forever.